This summer, I've hidden the garden hose away in the shed for good. My shoulders have stopped aching from dragging 30 pounds of plastic tubing every afternoon, and my water bill has dropped significantly. I'm going to show you 7 vegetables that can find their own water, but there is one root tricking technique in the first week that most of us get wrong, leaving our plants forever dependent on us. I remember the summers of years past, right at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, while the sun was still radiating intense heat onto the soil. I would begin a battle, one hand carrying a heavy bucket, the other straining to drag a roll of plastic hose across the bricks, weaving through fragile tomato beds. The times the hose kinked, the water stopped flowing, and that sharp twinge in my lower back every time I bent over. It all made me believe that gardening was a trade-off that required my physical strength. But in my 50s, I've realized that a true garden doesn't demand such exhaustion from us. Nature has always known how to take care of itself. It's just that we often strip away its independence through over-pampering. Yesterday, walking past the garden supply store, seeing people lined up to buy expensive automatic watering timers, I just smiled and walked by in silence, because now I have chosen a different path. I choose an effortless way. Instead of draining my own physical energy by repeating heavy manual labor, I've found a solution that works in harmony with nature. These are 7 vegetables you can grow without constantly dragging a heavy hose around. This choice doesn't just give our shoulder joints and spine a well-deserved rest, but it also gives you back at least 7 hours of quiet time every week. 7 precious hours where you can simply sit on a cool porch, listen to the wind rustling through the leaves, and leave the roots of these brave plants to do their miraculous work of survival deep beneath the loamy soil. Before we name each of these resilient plants, I owe you an answer about the biggest mistake I hinted at the beginning of the video. Most of us, when we see the harsh summer sun, feel a sense of pity. That pity urges our hands to pick up the hose and spray a fine mist of water over the surface of the soil every afternoon. We think we are quenching the garden's thirst. But the truth is, from the perspective of soil biology, that daily pampering is a poison that destroys the natural survival instincts of our plants. When you water shallowly and constantly, you are unintentionally sending the wrong message. The plant's roots, which are designed to plunge deep in search of dark, water-holding layers, now become lazy. They complacently gather just beneath the surface, waiting for your artificial handouts. And then, when the midday sun beats down, baking that top layer of soil to over 100 degrees, that entire fragile, shallow root system is practically boiled alive. Your plants wilt, you panic, and add even more water, and you officially become a prisoner to an endless watering schedule. To break this exhausting cycle, I apply a strict rule during the first week of transplanting, the rule of deep, infrequent watering. I only bring the hose out exactly once a week, turning the valve to its lowest setting to let the water trickle gently at the base of the plant for a full 15 minutes. The water seeps through every crack, absorbing into the quiet capillaries of the earth without eroding the surface. After that, I put the hose away, firmly refusing to water again for the next 6 days. This intentional surface drought sends a gentle emergency signal down into the earth. It forces the young roots to abandon their habit of growing shallow, using all their vitality to drive straight down, dozens of centimeters deep, to where the moisture is still sleeping. But for the root system to confidently stretch into the darkness, it needs a protective shield on the surface. You don't need to buy expensive and complicated plastic drip systems, which will quickly become brittle and snap under the summer sun, leaking microplastics into the soil and constantly demanding maintenance. The solution is right beneath our feet, completely free, and it is how nature has sheltered sprouting life for millions of years. It is a 4-inch thick layer of organic mulch. You can use dry straw, decaying leaves gathered around the garden, or dried grass clippings. When I scoop up armfuls of dry straw and spread a soft, thick layer over the beds, I am simulating the tranquil forest floor. This rustic blanket performs a biological miracle. It lowers the surface temperature of the soil by at least 10 degrees during those scorching summer afternoons. Beneath those dry leaves, a perfect microclimate is established. Instead of helplessly watching the water bill skyrocket every month, this peaceful layer serves as a sturdy wall against any fluctuating costs of supplies. It locks the moisture into the soil, denies massive evaporation, and creates a cool roof to shelter the minor earthworms diligently working underneath. These earthworms, along with the microscopic networks of mycorrhizal fungi, are the most magnificent natural water delivery machines that no human technology could ever match. Our job is simply to lay out that protective blanket, take a step back, and allow the garden to run its own life effortlessly. Once the topsoil is firmly protected and the habit of root training has been established, we can finally talk about the main characters of summer. Topping the list of these silent warriors that don't demand the service of a hose is okra. Okra carries within it a fierce survival strength hidden beneath a rustic appearance. Unlike leafy greens with their shallow, sprawling roots, okra possesses an incredibly sharp natural biological plow, a massive taproot. This pure white taproot, once properly trained, will relentlessly drive straight down through even the most stubborn layers of clay. It seeks out the cool, mineral-rich water hidden deep beneath the earth, nourishing the plant to stand tall and proud right in the middle of cloudless summer afternoon. But the true beauty of okra also lies in its generosity. Even at the peak of a drought, okra still resiliently unfurls its bright yellow flowers every early morning. That is a vital food source for short-lived bees, maintaining the ecological rhythm when all other creatures are exhausted. And if okra reaches up to greet the sun, then close to the ground, we have a silent water reservoir named the sweet potato. When you gaze at a bed of sweet potatoes, don't just see a sprawling patch of green leaves. Understand that beneath that leafy carpet, the tubers are quietly swelling, storing a massive amount of water and starch. The sweet potato tuber is nature's perfect backup plan. On days when the blazing sun drains every drop of moisture from the leaves, the plant will quietly draw water from its own root tubers to survive. It never begs for the intervention of an artificial watering hose. More remarkably, the densely woven carpet of sweet potato leaves above forms a giant living umbrella, casting a cool shade over the soil. Many times when I gently part the sweet potato leaves, I smile to find a damp little frog or a few ladybugs taking peaceful refuge from the harsh sun. Growing sweet potatoes isn't just about harvesting food. It's about establishing a quiet sanctuary for countless other tiny lives. To close out this first group, we must mention red amaranth, a name so familiar in the kitchen, yet it carries an astonishing will to survive. Carrying the resilient genetics of wild plants that grow in barren lands, the root system of amaranth can reach depths of up to 3 feet. Once it has anchored itself firmly into the earth, amaranth perfectly sustains itself with almost no need for you to step into the garden with any watering tools. By accepting this calculated scarcity, you will discover another gift from nature. The leaves of dry-farmed amaranth might not be as big as your hand, nor as watery and lush as the ones in the supermarket. But their flavor, the sweetness that lingers in your throat, is infinitely richer and more authentic. That's because the essence of the soil hasn't been diluted by excessive irrigation water. That is when we realize that sometimes, by stepping back and reducing our human interference, nature distills the most wonderful flavors. And the greatest reward for us, gardeners who have crossed the age of 50, is knee joints that no longer ache, shoulders that feel light, and a garden that silently thrives without anyone rushing it. If sweet potatoes or okra survive by driving their roots deep into the dark regions of the earth, the second group of plants offers a wonderful lesson in standing proud right on the surface. We often hold a misconception that the harsh summer sun is not the time for leafy greens. That might be true for delicate lettuce or cabbage, but it is completely wrong when it comes to Swiss chard. Why is Swiss chard able to stretch its vibrant leaves under the July sun without you having to carry buckets of water out every afternoon? The magic lies in an invisible suit of armor. The entire surface of a Swiss chard leaf is coated in a natural biological wax called cutin. Imagine this waxy membrane as a solid shield, locking the precious moisture inside each cell, firmly refusing to let water evaporate massively into the sweltering air. Thanks to this mechanism of freezing moisture loss, you will always have crisp, sweet greens ready for family dinners, without having to trade it for sharp pains in your spine from carrying water every day. Next, we have cowpeas. Raised from the genetic code of harsh tropical flora, this bean possesses incredibly smart self-defense mechanics. During the peak temperature hours of the day, millions of microscopic stomata on the leaf surface will automatically partially close. Just like how we calmly hold our breath when diving into deep water, the cowpea temporarily halts all unnecessary evaporation. They retreat in silence, preserving every drop of life sap, only to open up again when the night dew falls, collecting pure moisture from the air to compensate. And finally, the summer garden wants to tell you a profound lesson about patience through the eggplant. I know, many new gardeners often panic when they step out onto the porch at 1 in the afternoon, seeing the leaves of eggplants or zucchini drooping, going soft as if they are dying of thirst. The instinct of pity urges them to immediately drag out the hose and spray cold water everywhere to rescue them. But please, stop. That drooping is not a sign of death. In the biological language of plants, it is simply temporary physiological wilting, or as I often call it, a midday siesta. By relaxing and letting its leaves droop, the plant is actively minimizing its surface area exposed to direct sunlight in order to preserve the turgor pressure inside its stems. Suddenly, watering while the soil is still baking hot not only fails to save the plant, but it also creates a terrible thermal shock for the mycorrhizal fungi network sleeping underneath. When you deeply understand this rustic physiological mechanism, you untie your mind from invisible anxieties. The garden has its own natural rhythm. Our job is not to interfere roughly, but to wait patiently. When the first shadows of late afternoon fall, soothing the harshness of the space, you will see a quiet miracle take place. Without a single drop of artificial water, those leaves will automatically become plump and stand up straight again. That is when we understand that true gardening is knowing when our hands need a rest. The sunset is gradually turning into a honey color, fading as it sweeps across the beds now covered in a blanket of decaying straw. Standing silently in the garden at this moment, no longer hearing the loud hum of a water pump or the harsh hiss of a hose, I suddenly realized something tranquil. The greatest reward of gardening does not lie in the number of fruits and vegetables weighed on a scale, but in the peace of the soul and the liberation of the body. When we let go of the desire to control, put away the heavy hose, and stop forcing everything to be artificially lush in the middle of a drought, we reach the realm of a self-sustaining garden. Effortless gardening is not laziness. It is a profound understanding of the ecosystem's laws of operation, allowing nature to manage its own work. Shoulders that are no longer burdened, spines that no longer complain every afternoon. That is the clearest proof of a truly healing cultivation method. And the most magical thing of all is that when we leave the root systems to dive deep on their own, when we let the organic mulch quietly decompose under the harsh sun, we are not just harvesting clean vegetables for the present. We are building a priceless legacy beneath the soil. A block of dark, loamy soil with an intact capillary structure, full of vitality and saturated with water today, is the solid foundation of survival to pass on to the generations of seeds tomorrow. This summer, which plant are you struggling with the most because it demands too much water? Tell me the story of your garden in the comments section. Who knows? We might find a solution to give your shoulders a rest. And if you don't even want to bend down to harvest, in the next video, I will show you how to create the wicking tub, a self-watering planter that mimics the Earth's capillaries, where you can sit back in a chair and pick your greens without ever worrying about a watering schedule. The garden already knows how to take care of itself. Now it is time to allow ourselves to rest.